Hello everyone, my name is Anna and I'm going to draw my life and share my life story with you guys. I was born and raised in Hong Kong, an amazing city in China for those of you who think it's in Japan, and I have a younger sister and our family is super close. I love my parents so much. I was always a really happy child, smiling and laughing, and always had a lot of friends around me. I was normal. I liked Justin Bieber and One Direction, and I still do. I played a lot of sports like tennis, swimming, and track and field, and I always studied really hard for the exceeding expectations in middle school. Life was pretty perfect. Then one day at school, when I was an innocent little 14-year-old freshman, something really scary happened to me. During my free period, I was practicing my speech I had to give for my history class. I was always super nervous and shy before giving a speech, so I was pretty used to my sweaty and shaky hands. But all of a sudden, I felt like I couldn't breathe. I froze, and both my arms started shaking. My heart was racing, and I thought I was having a heart attack. I felt terrified, so scared that I couldn't move. Am I going to die? Am I going crazy? I felt hot, then cold, then hot, then cold. My fingers and toes tingled like pins and needles. I was in the library and I didn't know what to do. People were around me and they would think that I'm crazy. After the 3 longest minutes, everything went away and I felt absolutely exhausted, mentally, emotionally, physically. And I didn't know what to do. I couldn't tell the nurse because she would think that I was insane and she would send me to a mental institution probably, or wouldn't even believe me. And plus, this was just one off. This wouldn't happen again, right? Wrong. So I skipped speech and kept delaying it until the teacher eventually forgot about it. Score! And I continued life as if nothing had happened and tried to forget about the entire experience. 2 weeks later, I was playing a tennis match against another school in the varsity team. After a really long point, it was my turn to serve. I was panting and my heart was racing, and I instantly thought, oh my gosh, it's coming. I clutched my chest and felt that choking sensation. I felt dizzy and nauseous. My heart raced even more, and there was this overwhelming fear that just completely took over me. This is it. I was gonna die right in front of my entire tennis team. My fingers and toes tingled and felt numb, and I was certain that this time it was a heart attack. But after 2 minutes, it went away and I felt just drained of energy. I didn't want to play anymore because I was scared that the tennis would make me get another one of those episodes, so I said that I was nauseous and just forfeited the game. I was so embarrassed and hoped that nobody had seen me on court. I left for home, and 2 hours later, while I was eating snack, I felt the same things all over again. The fast heartbeats, the feeling that I couldn't get enough air, the terror that is almost paralyzing, the sweating and the shaking. 3 minutes later, it was gone, just like last time. I felt even more exhausted, as if I had run a marathon. And for the rest of that night, I would get the same things all over again every few hours. It was awful. Something was wrong with me, but like before, I couldn't tell anyone about it. I developed phobias towards talking in class. I was scared of every single place where I got these attacks. I had one in a tunnel once, and I was too scared to drive into tunnels and totally avoided them. In PE, I would hide in the nurse's office. I stopped playing sports, scared that if I increased my heart rate, I would get another attack. I didn't do any kind of exercise. I got attacks everywhere, even when I was lying in bed sometimes. At one point, I was so scared to get panic attacks that I wouldn't even leave home. These are all examples of situational avoidance. I was even afraid to go outside, which is called agoraphobia. I lived like this for years, and eventually my parents couldn't bear to see me suffer anymore and watch my condition worsen. They dragged me to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist told me that I had panic disorder and that it is a serious condition 1 in 75 people might experience. Even famous people have them, like Zoella. I was so relieved to know that all of this was actually a thing and that there are people out there who are going through the same things as I do. But to this day, we still don't know exactly what causes panic disorder. It could be from major life transitions that are stressful, like graduation, moving countries, getting married, and so on. There is also a tendency for panic disorder to run in families, and it turns out my grandma and uncle both have panic disorder. All of the symptoms of panic attacks may sound familiar to you as a fight or flight response. There are multiple anxiety disorders that may cause panic attacks, but the difference is that in panic disorder, people always worry about their next attack, the consequences of their attack, and they change their behaviors. These panic attacks sometimes come out of nowhere. They are supposed to occur suddenly, without warning, and without any way to stop it, and they come repeatedly. The level of fear is way too serious and high for the actual situation and is usually unrelated. This explains why I totally freaked out for no reason before my speech, and it usually only lasts for a few minutes since the body cannot keep the fight or flight response for long. But panic attacks can actually come on again and again for hours. People with panic disorder are terrified of their actual panic attacks, so not so much what triggers their attack. And sometimes, people with panic disorder can bring on an attack by responding to physical symptoms of an attack. For example, if I drink coffee or play tennis and feel my heart rate increase, I will think it's a symptom of an attack. Then I'll become more panicked and anxious, and I will bring on a real panic attack myself. And the most frustrating thing is that I don't know how to isolate the different triggers of an attack. I went through a lot of therapy and treatment. There are many medications I tried, like serotonin reuptake inhibitors, Paxil, and Zoloft. I took anti-anxiety medications like Xanax, Ativan, and Klonopin. But I didn't want to take heart medications like beta blockers to help slow down my heart rate and block the effects of epinephrine in my body. None of these medications worked very well, and my parents were not very supportive of all the chemicals I was putting into my system. So instead, I tried therapy. I did many different kinds of therapy. One of them was psychotherapy, where I basically just talked a lot. I learned and understood more about panic disorders and panic attacks and tried to develop strategies for dealing with them. I went through cognitive restructuring, where I tried to have more realistic and positive views of my panic attacks, like convincing myself that an attack does not mean I'm going crazy or dying. Through cognitive therapy, I tried to identify the triggers of my attacks, like a change in heartbeat or a certain place, then understand that these so-called triggers are actually completely separate from my attacks and are totally unrelated. In cognitive behavioral therapy, I basically learned how to change my thought patterns that might induce an attack or lead to negative feelings. So if I felt like I was getting symptoms of an attack while running because my heart was racing, I learned how to try not to think like that anymore. With interoceptive exposure, I would do things or go to places that would give me attacks and try to gain exposure to the actual attack and their symptoms so that I would learn that these symptoms like sweat and fast heartbeats would not develop into a true panic attack. Okay, so where am I today? Well, it's been about 3 months since I have last seen my psychiatrist. I went to weekly therapy sessions for about 5 months, and after that, I am not as scared of my panic attacks anymore. I'm very slowly getting back into my normal routine, which is really amazing and something I thought I could never do. I still get panic attacks occasionally, but I know breathing and relaxation techniques to help me calm down. The road was tough, and there is still a long ways to go. I don't know if my panic attacks will ever go away, but I do know that it is very possible for me to live a wonderful and normal life with them. I've been accepted to university where I will be studying psychology and neuroscience, so I'm super excited for that. My panic disorder did take a few years of my life, but I won't let it take any more. So that's my life up to this moment in time. Thank you so much for watching.